Have you ever noticed the moment when you stopped fighting and just started existing? It happened on a gray afternoon. You realized the house had been quiet for days, not from lack of sound, but from the absence of resistance. The rocking chair still creaked, the clock still ticked, the wind still whispered through the cracks, but inside you, everything was still. There were no more plans, no more revolt, no anxious hope. Only the strange rest of resignation. The absence began slowly, as if life were stepping away in silence, apologizing for intruding. First, you gave up arguing, then hoping, and finally, asking. You stopped seeking answers not because you found peace, but because you stopped believing in the questions. The soul, too tired of trying to explain itself, chose to simply remain. The image is this: a glass of water forgotten on the kitchen table. Not full, not empty, just still. You look at it every day but never drink, because you no longer feel thirst. And maybe you never truly did. Time ceased to be a road and became a room. And in this room lives your last companion, Resignation. She doesn't speak, doesn't judge, doesn't demand. She just sits beside you, holds your hand, and says without saying, "Accept." And you accept. Because resisting now would hurt more than surrendering. Have you felt this presence too? The one that remains after everything else is gone? If this touched a silent part of you, write "I stopped fighting too" in the comments. Sometimes what connects us isn't strength, but exhaustion. Not every defeat comes with collapse. Sometimes it arrives as a lukewarm embrace. You stop defending yourself, but no one noticed. You still go to the market, wave at the doorman, say "I'm fine" without hesitation. But inside, something quietly emptied. It wasn't a break. It was a slow unraveling, like thread slipping from an old coat. No one saw it, only you. And even then, you barely spoke of it. And even, the soul learns to go quiet when it knows speaking won't change anything. And so you accepted the sameness of days, the tired smiles, the unspoken wants. Not from cowardice, but from a strange kind of clarity. The kind that knows not everything deserves the energy of a fight. You didn't run from life, but you stopped chasing it. And in that space between "I can't take it anymore" and whatever, resignation became refuge. It arrived like a thin sheet over your back, not warm, but enough. And you, tired of justifying yourself, allowed this neutral blanket. No color, no shape, just a silence that hurts less than hope. Your eyes still see, but now they observe without longing. Your hands still touch, but with the gentleness of someone who expects nothing in return. You're still here, but you don't move from desire anymore, only from habit. Like a clock that doesn't choose the minutes it marks, it just marks. If this sensation feels familiar, write in the comments, "I'm not fighting, but I'm still here." Someone on the other side might be waiting for that sentence. Some versions of us don't die. They simply retreat, never to be called again. In the bedroom closet, there's a cardboard box no one opens anymore. Inside, childhood drawings, unsent letters, a half-written book abandoned on page 32. In that box lives a version of you who once believed. The one who made lists, traced paths with innocent excitement, who still dreamed of becoming. Today, the box only serves as a reminder of what never happened, and you no longer approach it. For protection, resignation slowly taught you to avoid that part. It whispers that it's not worth opening, that it would hurt more to remember than to forget. And so you learn to live far from yourself. A slow departure, polite, tearless. The kind of farewell that doesn't happen all at once, but completes itself in silence. The mirror doesn't lie. You still recognize yourself, but there's something behind the eyes that no longer shines, something between your fingers that no longer pulses, as if life had been gently faded, so you wouldn't notice. But you noticed. You just chose not to react. There's an old photo of you smiling, forgotten in the bottom drawer. You look at it and wonder, what did this person know that I've forgotten? And the answer comes without words. They still hoped. If this forgetting is also yours, write "I still remember who I was" in the comments. Your memory might awaken someone else who also fell asleep. Not every prison has bars. Some are made of too much acceptance. Over time, you stopped asking why. Mornings arrive without feeling, nights without unrest. You wake up, make coffee, fulfill the minimum rituals of someone who is alive. But being alive no longer means being awake. You no longer suffer, and that's the most alarming part. Because pain at least reminded you that something mattered. Resignation, once a kind of rest, now feels like dense silence. It doesn't scream, doesn't press. It simply fills everything. Like odorless smoke, it slips into every corner of the soul until there's no room left for longing. There's no revolt, no contentment, only a kind of existential neutrality that turns life into a white hallway without doors. You still know how to laugh, but you no longer hear yourself. You still know how to cry, but the tears no longer come. Resignation built an invisible barrier between you and yourself. And now, even surrounded by memories, you always feel far away, as if there were a thin wall between your skin and the world, something that muffles everything, even longing. You wanted to feel, not just anything, but something real, even if it was pain. But what remains is this layer of anesthetic acceptance, this constant gesture of lowered shoulders, this habit of asking nothing more from time. And maybe the most frightening thing is realizing you could stay this way forever. If this touched your quiet cell, write, "I want to leave, but I don't know how." Sometimes just naming the desire opens a crack. Maybe healing doesn't come with a scream. Maybe it begins with the first breath you allow yourself after too much silence. Today, you woke up the same way, but something breathed differently. A small muscle in your chest moved. You don't know where it came from. Maybe a memory, maybe a discomfort. But something in the air wasn't routine. And in that invisible micro-gesture, resignation trembled. You sat on the edge of the bed and let your body feel heavy. For the first time in months, you felt the ground beneath your feet. You felt the real contact between your skin and the world. A second later, your chest ached. Not from sadness, but because something inside you tried to expand. It wasn't an awakening, just a signal. A slight shiver in the soul saying, "I'm still here." And that alone was enough. Because in the land of resignation, even the smallest movement is a miracle. You stood up, opened the window. The street was the same, but the air wasn't. Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe it was you. Your last companion still sat there in the corner chair. But now you didn't look at her with surrender. You looked with tenderness, as if to say, "Thank you for protecting me, but I can go now." And even without knowing where, even without strength, you took the first symbolic step. You admitted that you want to return. If this gesture touched something inside you, write in the comments, "I want to return even if I don't know how." Then, share this with someone who also stopped breathing. And if something still pulses quietly inside you, subscribe. Sometimes coming back is just remembering you're still alive.